Yeah, today we're just doing something different. On our old house we had a few cracked floorboards, so we've gone and replaced them, and I've just noticed that we're out of sanding belts for our sander. Now this particular one, I think they're 21 inch, sanding 21 by 3 inch. So what I'm going to do is I've got a whole heap of these ones I've bought at a garage sale, and what I'm going to hopefully do is make them fit this. So what I'm going to do first, I'm going to just pull the lever out. The little rollers are as short as they can be, and I've got this strip here that I've just basically gone and marked. That's the minimum length that the belt needs to be able to fit on this. And then I just flick over this lever and mark another line, which is the maximum. I actually went, you can see where the little mark is there, that's where the maximum is. I've just gone a little bit shorter because you always want that spring to take up the belt, so the belt's nice and tight. So anyway, what I'm going to do now is just measure what the minimum length of the belt is and what the maximum is. So the minimum the belt can be is 20 1/4 inches, and it can be as big as 21 3/4 inches. So there's a little bit of a variance there. So even if I break one of the 21 inch belts, provided it hasn't been shortened by 3/4 of an inch, whatever that is in metric, I can still use the belt if I re-glue it. So on this particular machine, it's a Taurus, it's a pretty old machine. I think that's the year of it there, 8th month 07, so 10-year-old machine. Doesn't get used a hell of a lot, but hopefully that can help you save a few dollars on sanding belts. Now I'm going to go ahead and actually make and glue a belt, shorten it from one of these old ones here. Now I've just started slowly peeling this. As you can see, there's a bit of a, probably about 5 mil, or probably, I don't know, yeah, it'd be 5 mil, 5-10 mil overlap there. So I'm just going to slowly peel that away, so I don't have to scrape off that sanding paper off that. But if you can't do that, you just have to basically get the same angle. I'm not sure what that angle, I don't think it really matters, and then just scrape away the sanding material or whatever's on there away, just so you can bond it better when you put that. You only need to do one side. And there you go, I've just peeled it right off, and now I'm going to measure it to the longest, what do we say, 21 3/4 inches, minus that 5 mil that's going to overlap, and glue it. Hopefully it'll be good. Oh, we also need to measure the width of it. So you just get an old pair of scissors, just make sure you try and cut it straight, or as straight as you can, and then we're going to glue it. The glue we're going to use, I got it here at Mitre 10. You could probably get it at Bunnings here in Australia. I'm not sure where you'd get it elsewhere, but hardware shop. Polyurethane glue, and it just has we found that these really glue it well, instead of those rubber glues like these ones, the quick grip, where you contact adhesive. You put it on two halves and then just bind it together. You have to clamp it. Just get a piece of wood and clamp it together. But anyway, I'll show what I do later on in the video. Now, to get the accurate measure, you can either use the strip that you used, or you can use an old disc or sanding belt as a template. If you're measuring it, just make sure you only add one side of this overlap, not both sides. It'll be too long, because this bit goes over the top of that, so you only need to go half. You don't have to do an extra 5mm or 1/4 inch on both sides. So anyway, you can see that the angle as well doesn't really matter. On the other, the angle of the belt's a lot different, so as long as you match it up with the own one, it doesn't matter. So anyway, what I've done is I've had the strip and I've measured it there, and now I'll just make a line there and cut that off with a pair of scissors. There we go, we've chopped that piece off, and this strip here, I made sure I chopped off the worn bit, the bit that was a bit knackered, and now we're just going to glue that overlapping, because these belts are directional. You've got to make sure when it's sanding that it goes over this way, otherwise it'll end up hitting that sharp edge and pulling it up. Now, you don't need much glue, but just make sure you work it into those edges really well. Now, it was a little bit tricky to, I actually thought I was going to clamp it in the vise with a piece of block of wood, but I've opted to go for these clamps instead. So anyway, we'll let that dry, and then when it dries on the inside, underneath, I won't flip it over now, we're just going to glue a little bit of thin material, whether it's like a cotton material or a piece of newspaper or something. It's just to make it nice and smooth so there's no step on the edge as it's going over that the wheels on the sander, just so it's got more strength there and smoother as it guides over those wheels. Now, these belts are directional, and what that means is as that's sanding, you want if it's rotating this way, clockwise, you want it to jump over whatever you're sanding so it doesn't hit that hard edge, and always try and work it off. The problem is underneath, it's the opposite. The roller will be coming up and hitting that little step there where the join is, if you can see that. Now, two things you can do. You can either just lightly grind that little edge just so it's a bit smoother, or you can use something like this. It's just an old bit of wallpaper that's sort of a commercial quality wallpaper, and you just stick that over the top of that, and that'll just make a smoother join over that where the belts are joined. But I'll try and give it a bit of a grind, because that polyurethane glue really glues it very well, and we'll just see how it goes. But important not to try and thin it down, so you don't reduce the strength, just to nip that little edge off there. There you go, that's how it looks. I've just ground it down with the bench grinder a bit, and it's quite a smooth join now. There's no step there. If you like, you can glue something like material, a thin bit of old bed sheet or bit of paper or something. It doesn't really matter. It's just so it's got a smooth ride over that bump there. that's basically how you do it. Might sound a little bit long on the video, but if you're doing a few of these, it won't take you a real long time. And if you can even find, like I did, find some of these old discs on an oversized machine, you can save a bit of money.